Amsoil tested its products in a Polaris XD500. Let's see how they performed. When a manufacturer comes out with a new model or a new design, one of the things we do at Amsoil is get one. In this case, we chose to go the route of our proof of performance. Step one is always figure out how the machine operates as it was designed. That means that we fill it full of sensors, we get the machine in the field, and we drive it as it was meant to be driven. At Amsoil, we like to push the limits. In the field with this machine, since it is designed to be a workhorse, we loaded over 1,000 pounds of landscape brick in the back of this machine for all of the testing. So what that does then is that adds stress to every component in the machine, from the engine oil to the gear lube to the CVT fluid. This machine has Polaris's first ever steel drive CVT transmission. In a steel belted CVT, such as the one we're seeing in this case, the belt is made from steel, the clutch sheaves are made of steel, and the only thing that's providing protection is the oil between them. It is a critical piece of the puzzle to avoid metal-on-metal contact. So one of the things that we actually built with this machine was Amsoil's new ATV-UTV CVT fluid. One of the cool things about this steel drive CVT is it's fully electronic controlled, so you can build yourself a recreational mode or a sport mode or a comfort mode where the clutch shifts very, very smoothly. You can also build yourself a work mode where it stays in a low gear and it crawls along at a snail's pace and it doesn't burn the belt. So the field testing portion of this test consisted of a 3.5-mile loop that covered mixed terrain. So we were able to run the machine at trail speeds. We were able to run the machine at simulated working speeds in the same course. So we have good solid data saying, here are the different temperatures you see in the field, here's the RPMs, here's the throttle positions. Then we can also replicate all of those different load conditions on our dyno, and we can really work that machine. So we built 4 test profiles, one for each of the different modes. The XD500 comes with some mixed drain intervals, and in this case we ran the intervals that are recommended by Polaris, and those are engine and differentials at 2,000 miles, the new CVT transmission at 6,000 miles. On the dyno, our max RPM was 6,300 and our max oil temp was 230 degrees. After 6,000 miles, we pulled it off the dyno and we basically took the entire machine apart. So the first thing we get to is the engine. In the engine for this test, we're using Amsoil ATV-UTV 5W50. As we start pulling the engine down, we start out by looking at the pistons. We're looking at a couple different areas on those pistons. We're looking for any scuffing on the skirts. We're also looking for any deposits. We don't see any in this case. The undercrown of the piston that sees a lot of heat. There's little to no staining, indicating that the oil detergency package is doing its job. We also look at the cylinders, which are interfacing directly with the pistons, looking for remaining crosshatch that helps hold the oil and provide that protection. In this case, crosshatching is still intact. There is virtually no wear in the cylinders. As we get deeper into the engine, we're looking at all of the different bearings. All of them show that the oil is protecting as it's designed in the conditions that we put this machine in. So bearings look excellent. Once we get through the engine, we move into the differential, and there you're really looking at the ring gear and the pinion gear. Both of those in this case looked excellent. There's no sign of scuffing. There's no sign of any rubbing or wiping that can occur when you're dealing with a ring and a pinion. In this case, the 75-140 severe gear that we used here worked perfectly. Last, we get to the CVT transmission. Polaris is calling it the steel drive transmission. This is an electronically controlled, steel-belted CVT, just like you would see in a small to mid-size automobile. Amsoil specifically developed a CVT fluid for ATV-UTVs, and this is our validation effort, so we were fairly excited to see these results. The pictures speak for themselves. The belt looks brand new. There is no sign of any wear after 6,000 miles of abuse. Also of note inside this transmission, the CVT is not always turning. There's a friction disc that needs to engage as well. So it's a CVT fluid with wet clutches involved in it. It makes the formulary even more important. When we look at these discs, we look at both the steel drive discs and the actual frictional discs. In this case, there's no wear measured in any of them. The fluid is doing its job. We used the proper combination of base oil and additive to make sure that we are protecting this transmission holistically. So based on those results, whether you're using your Polaris XD500 for work or for recreation, you can rest assured that Amsoil has you protected.